Baltic Brand Talks, podcast about all things creative and trending.
Hi everyone, this is Andris Rubins and Baltic Brand Talks. And today we have a very special guest who represents the brand from Lithuania, but now already European level and global phenomenon. And the brand is called Vinted. In 2008, as the famous story goes, the founder Milda Mitkute was moving but had too many clothes to take with her. Eustace offered help and built a website to give away her clothes to friends. Soon enough, the media wanted in, and the duo knew they were on something, and Vinted was born. And a couple of years later, today more than 2,000 people work from their HQ headquarters in Lithuania and offices around Europe. They are the largest second-hand exchange platform in Europe. They are the first unicorn from Lithuania, today valued around $5.4 billion. So that's quite a story. And today I want to talk with Emma Sullivan, who is a creative director at Vinted, and hear how they have, gone to where they are today and what's next. So please enjoy. So, great to see you, Emma.
Yes, great to see you too. Happy to be back.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, not back on the show, but back talking to you.
Yes, and we can actually start with the year and couple of months before you were in Tallinn and Vinted. You shared the Vinted story for Baltic Brand Forum audience, and you were talking about the brand pragmatism that can actually beat bravery, because at that year bravery was our main topic. So. Yeah, what were maybe the main message that you wanted to share in Tallinn, and is it still? Would you still agree?
Yes, definitely. I think I would still stand by my point. I think the reality is that bravery takes many forms, right? And sometimes it's rather brave to be pragmatic, even though that sounds a bit counterintuitive. To test, to learn, to scale, to kind of practice a bit of restraint when everyone's running in this direction, following this trend or doing that. It's kind of like, wait, step back. And realizing that like restraint can be brave as well, both in terms of strategy and creative. So I would definitely still stand by that.
All right. No, I loved the also your points and the presentation, because most of other speakers are really focusing on this entertainment part of the brand and the great content that you create, and that's almost the main focus you would have as a brand or creative director. But you were, more like business oriented, I would say. You're still creative director, but very business oriented. And so, is your background also covering these two kind of worlds, or can you shortly maybe talk about what's your background and how did you join the Vinted team?
Yeah, totally. So it's a windy road, I think, like a lot of people. I had actually studied medicine and I worked in a neuroscience lab.
Oh, right.
So I was like very oriented in, kind of logic and sciences. But I always had a big kind of creative side. So I was painting, writing, etc. And kind of one thing led to another. And I ended up founding a kind of small boutique creative agency in the US. And so there I worked on brand, creative, storytelling, all those kinds of things, until eventually I had to break the news to my dad that I was not going to become a doctor. Sad. And from there, I kind of learned a lot on the go, which ultimately led me to an opportunity in Europe, where I was working at Trivago doing brand creative. That was in kind of this like pre-post IPO phase, explosive growth. And I think from working in entrepreneurship and having to figure things out on the go, it kind of gives you this sort of tolerance for speed, for uncertainty, you can really kind of stomach the roller coaster of ambitious targets, having to figure things out on the go, being scrappy and resourceful in your approach. So I would say like the business mind definitely comes from kind of doing my own thing, running the show, and then a little bit of kind of science and art sprinkled in.
So if you would meet the friend from the high school and they would ask, what is Vinted? How would you, pitch them what
How would I?
Vinted stands for? Yeah, what is
I think
it?
I think I would say it's like this wicked easy secondhand app where you can look good and feel good and do good for both kind of your wallet and the planet. So to me, it's like a triple threat, win-win-win place to shop.
Yeah, I would say quite amazing. So you're based in Berlin. So
Yes.
you left your motherland and
Yes.
no. And how is and Vinted has a very global team at the moment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you have your own team in Berlin as well, or you are basically moving around and seeing the other people?
Yeah, so we've got like HQ is in Vilnius, and that's like a larger campus. And then we've got an office in Berlin and in Amsterdam. And our teams are split. I would say like more of the creative team is based in Berlin altogether, just because it's so much easier to kind of jam on ideas and get to the good stuff when you're together. But the brand studio or the brand team itself is 60 and they're split across Vilnius. We've got like a lot of the strategic team in Vilnius, and then we've got Amsterdam and Berlin. So yeah, we're a mixed bag, but we find the hybrid thing works. We see each other as often as we can.
Okay, right. And yeah, I have to say, I really loved the mission of Vinted that is make secondhand the first choice worldwide. I think that's really beautiful, and it's also very ambitious. As I believe we are not yet there, or how would you say, where are we in regards to the mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been the mission of the company for, more than a decade, and I can't speak, to too deeply about how it was written because I wasn't
Mm,
around. But we felt then and do still feel that it's achievable. Consumer behavior is changing towards secondhand, and in some markets, we look at France, like, people do choose vintage first. They do choose secondhand first,
mm.
and that's largely due to kind of our presence and our connection in these markets. So I think it's bit by bit. It's been a long time that people have been told it has to be new, and if you're tired of it, throw it away. And a lot of the work of the advertising industry, very compelling storytelling, convincing people to
To
buy
buy
things.
new,
Yeah,
or
to buy more than they need, to buy
yeah,
new. And
yeah.
so I don't know, maybe it sounds a little bit like Miss America, but I do like that the kind of advertising we're doing is kind of undoing some of that
Mm.
narrative, and the mission itself is driving towards a different outcome.
And how do you treat the brands, the fashion brands that are still mostly focusing on, bringing up new collections and trying to sell us more of new stuff? Do you see them as a kind of major competitors, or rather partners that you can collaborate and help to basically their used products to be still used?
Yeah, I mean, I think we focus on what we can do for the members. So really having like the best possible experience. So what people want to buy or how they want to consume. I mean, we're never in the position to kind of make people feel guilty about anything. That's like totally the opposite of
Mm.
of how we feel. So I wouldn't say we're overly concerned with what other fashion players are doing at the moment. We just focus on how we can drive towards the mission.
Yeah. And so you're creative director. So can you shortly describe what is your role and how much you influence what we see, in publicly in social media from Vinted or in the platform?
Yeah, totally. So we've got a team that covers all disciplines, like the full gamut. So it's creative copy, art direction, design, production, creative operations, and we
Mm.
in-house pretty much everything. So like all of the TV campaigns that you would see, everything, on online video, YouTube, performance, social media, billboards outside. I mean, everything you come across pretty much touches our team.
Yeah.
So we, as a global brand with so many markets, it's definitely a big task, but we've really gone through this phase, this kind of change since I joined 2.5 years ago, to kind of take it from like small local markets and campaigns to consolidating things to more of the global campaigning that we're used to. So I would hope that we're kind of producing less creative, but at a higher quality, and reaching more people with it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So how would you say, like, is there like communication is now dominated by the global campaigns with a little local twists, or it's still more major role is to kind of different regional campaigns?
I would say it's predominantly global
Global.
at
Okay.
this stage. We've got a brilliant influencer marketing team, and content creators that kind of give the local flavor, and we're gonna be experimenting with some more experiential and in-person stuff, coming up. So I think it's all about like finding the right balance between kind of the big talking points and how to connect with people locally. It's funny actually, in some markets, people think Vinted is from their country. In France, thinking Vinted is
That's
French.
good. I think
Yeah,
that's good. In most of the cases, that would be kind of, you reach local kind of communities and their hearts, and they feel like, it's our thing.
yeah, exactly.
Is it in Europe? I think you have probably some of the best positions are in France and Germany and other countries.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of Europe's leading C2C secondhand
Hmm.
fashion marketplace, so we're up there. A lot of people.
And when you look for those, global concepts and global stories that you write and that you film and you put out, like how much these cultural differences, you see and you feel, like how like do you get very different reactions from different countries when you put something out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we used to kind of overemphasize how different certain markets were, the
Yeah.
the local taste. But I think if we can find a human insight that speaks to something, we all have felt before, then it works,
Mm.
quite well. The world is so interconnected now, and I feel like we're able to find more similarities than differences in how we experience the world. I think the only kind of drawback to that is like the risk of being too generic, right? If it
Mm.
appeals to everyone. But we've had, a little bit of success with that, with like the recent Too Many campaign, which, showcased this absurd collection of clothes we all have. And it just illustrated kind of, beautifully in a visual way, but also in an insight way, what we all know to be true. And across countries all over Europe, I mean, we had such a positive response. So that to
Mm.
me is a good example of where, it can be global and still resonate.
And looking back to your last 3 years in Vinted, what has been maybe some of the projects that you're really proud of and that kind of you saw the bringing real effect to the brand or to the sales, both
Yeah.
equally important as we know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously the campaign I just mentioned, because it
Yeah.
was so exciting to have something organically go viral. I mean, that's like so hard to come by this year. Like when we were just seeing like, over 100 million like unique organic views, we were like, wait, what? So that was really exciting. But generally speaking, I think pioneering this switch from these, direct to camera, like old school kind of testimonial ads to
Hmm.
something that's, more emotive, more human centered, more cinematic. I mean, that's really the transformation that we've made over the last couple years. And it's been nice to prove that you can make something that has a good feeling to it, is beautiful, and still does the job, right? And that I think is exciting, and also part of that pragmatism, I think, that I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, definitely compliments from my side because I was looking at Vinted already a couple of years ago and I was thinking that's a great company, it's a great business, it's a fantastic platform, it's a successful business, but I couldn't find a lot of very inspiring, let's say, communication examples there. It was very like too pragmatic in a way. And now with your kind of, I think you really pushed the creativity and also this more emotional approach and more storytelling approach to brand that I think Vinted deserved and needed. And so definitely congrats on pushing it through.
Thank
I don't know
you.
how
And
easy it was, to change the also the marketing and management approach towards the brand building.
yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's tough to kind of change the way you've been doing things. I mean, even in a
Mm,
super innovative environment, I think it was like, 8 or 10 years were like the kind of same formula for mass media had
mm,
worked. So of course there was a little bit of hesitancy to change, but it's really like, test, prove, scale, earn trust
show
and work.
results, hopefully.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited because next year, at the start of the year, which is very soon actually, we're going to be releasing like a new brand platform.
All
So
right.
a really big idea to kind of unify our brand story. So that's what we've been cooking up in
Mm.
the background all year. So super excited for that.
Can't wait. Is it you would say evolution or revolution?
I
The
would
new
say,
platform.
I would say, I would say evolution.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds more pragmatic and
Yes, exactly. I would be going against my my mantra if not.
yeah. So, are there any like principles like that you and your creative marketing team has invented? Like, what are the things that you really appreciate when choosing the direction and ideas, and maybe some don'ts that you would say no, these are kind of these are definitely ways we are not going to explode or do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the age old like trying to stay single minded in the messaging is super important. I think it can be really tempting to like and the the consumers when you feel like you've got benefits to share. So that's like a forever game of subtraction. I think it's really easy
Yeah.
to add and add and add, but I'm kind of always asking like what can we take away, and it still works. We're all about showing like the positive potential of secondhand. As I mentioned before, I think when you have a product that intersects with something major that's happening globally, we talk about climate change, we talk about environmental problems. I think some brands take a more heavy-handed approach around
Mm,
sustainability, and I think for us, it's like we want to continue to stay positive, and
mm.
enable people to enjoy and not make people feel guilty. That's not our thing, so that's a pretty big don't on our list.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the creative team, I mean, trying not to make kind of creatively indulgent things that like people in the advertising industry or that we like, but are pretty kind of tone deaf for consumers. We at the end of the day want to make stuff that works,
Mm.
and maybe that's not always going to be the award winner, but we want to stay focused on the mission.
And how do you make sure it is for people, not for the team itself?
Yeah, I think it's about, the insights and the research and getting out there and connecting with
Mm.
people. I think, our we have a huge community of members. It's, the more we can understand them, what drives them, how they feel. I mean that's where the gold is, I would say.
Mm. And you mentioned also influencers that there's quite a professional approach to engaging with them. And actually, I think I read recently one case study that was also put public about this year's engagement numbers. And so, can you surely comment like how important is that part to overall marketing activities?
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, I think we've got tons of folks who are really have become ambassadors for the brand, and they live the values of the brand,
Mm.
and everything from style to kind of how they actually earn and save and like pragmatically use the platform is really cool. And so we've got a
Mm.
robust network, and we try to bring them close and yeah, basically connect that way.
And are these people that already used Vinted before, or they got to introduce and started to use it, and then kind of became organic? ambassadors.
Yeah, I mean, I would hesitate to say like full stop without our influencer director here, but
Yeah,
I think predominantly it's about, people who live and love the product already.
the idea itself as
Yeah,
well. Yeah. And
totally.
how do you balance out the promotions, Black Friday, probably deals and Xmas and all the kind of seasonal activities and sales, led communication campaigns with the brand building? Like, let's be net 60/40 golden rule is somewhere close or
Yes, that's definitely a case study that we pull out from time to time. But
okay.
honestly, I think we're still in this place of finding balance, right? Like, how do we find the right mix of opportunities, over a given year, and knowing when to jump into something and try something new and take a risk, and when to kind of sit something out. And it's not a perfect science yet, right? Like,
Mm,
it's an ongoing conversation around measurement, and Vinted is such a part of the zeitgeist right now that we get invites to participate in so many cool things around Europe, and I think it's all about, you can't say yes to everything. What do we know
mm,
for sure works, and then how do we add and build to those learnings, with stuff that is more risky and helps us
mm.
learn even more. Of
I
course, the
mean,
creative team is always like foaming at the mouth to do, like, the wild stuff. So it's good
mm,
we've got a very balanced strategy team that keeps like things on the ground, I would
yeah,
say.
have to motivate the creatives as well. And
Exactly.
yeah, so we already talked about sustainability. That is, one of the cornerstones for of Vinted platform. And of course, also if we look at brand capital study, Vinted has been recognized also one of the greenest brands in Lithuania overall, not only in a category, but out of all many hundreds of brands from Lithuania that we have included. So are there any kind of extra activities, initiatives that you are putting out towards the kind of more sustainable lifestyle, besides your main, business or platform that already speaks to planet?
Yeah, still think we have like a big job to do within that core, the core activity of buying and selling secondhand. I mean, the study that you mentioned and the research that we've done ourselves. I mean, we've just kind of deduced the final statistic about secondhand being better than new, about the overall CO2 emissions
Mm,
reduction from or the avoidance from buying secondhand. So we're super focused on that at the moment. And to be honest, the what I said at the beginning of how I would pitch Vinted is like it's really comes from this combined offer where it's not just about sustainability, but if you can get something that makes you feel good, is a good price, you can earn money. Like it
mm,
really is it really is a combined offer, and that's what we see people drive towards. So I wouldn't say that we're pushing towards anything above and beyond that at the moment, but it's really focused on the mission, right? Secondhand.
No, I think the great news about Vinted, you actually, provide a tool that people can use to help the planet and actually do something about it. Because many other brands, they really maybe raise awareness about the climate change and the problems that people are bringing to planet, but can't actually offer, tools to do something about it. So I think probably you have, as you offer the tool, maybe you can leave the awareness to, to media and other brands. And really,
Exactly. And I think it happens over time, right? I mean, I think, through using the product or like being introduced to secondhand, I think it creates a more of a mindful attitude, more conscious choices, overall. So it's not really like blasting, like this is the only way to shop, and condemn everything else. It's like, yeah, once you like, don't knock it till you try it, and once you like find something amazing at a certain price, you earn a little bit of money. Like bit by bit, you get
mm,
into it, and you're like, oh wow, this is such a different way, to go about Yeah, shopping, and we see from research that the joy of secondhand, like, really, is above and beyond that of firsthand in a lot of ways. Like,
Mm.
when when someone at the cafe says, "Cool jacket, where'd you get it?" And you can say Vinted, there's a lot of pride baked into that, and I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, when I go to Vinted, the Instagram platform, for example, and I open it, and it literally feels like luxury, no, not maybe luxury, but it feels like a fashion brand, not like a second-hand clothes brand that you would have in mind when you hear second-hand. Can you shortly explain why I have this feeling, and is it on purpose that you really wanna lift also the reputation of the second-hand as well, not just the consumption?
Yeah, I mean, I think, fashion was always at the core of the founding story of the platform. And secondhand has moved so far away from maybe those old ideas of like the jumble sale where you're like,
Yeah.
rooting through bins. It is something, and it can be something very aspirational. And it's really the gateway to some of this amazing kind of creative style people are coming up with. So we do tend to spotlight, bits like that, because it's a bit of a showroom to see like how people are styling and using secondhand in such
Mm.
a cool way.
So any other activities that you do as a fashion brand? Like have you participated in then also in the biggest fashion shows?
I would say the biggest fashion shows, maybe not, but we did partner with Oxfam recently and did during London Fashion Week.
Yeah.
We participated in a fashion show there. We just helped Paul Mezcal sell some of his Gladiator
Mm.
press outfits on the platform. So that has gotten a lot of buzz this week. People are very excited about
That's
that.
cool. And
Yeah.
that's really, I think, the position where kind of usually fashion brands have taken, like these kind of fashion houses have taken the stand, and now Vinted is joining in the game. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
After this podcast, should we set you up to sell this sweater and see if we can get some PR buzz around it?
Yeah, I think it's still pretty fresh, but as it happens, after a while, I might definitely want to exchange it to something, that maybe feels fresh again. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about AI coming into not only business but also in marketing and even content creation and picture generation. So how you approach AI and how is it the real tool like your everyday assistant, or you are still researching on opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at first there was kind of this like mixed bag of like hesitancy and excitement within like the creative industry. I'd say our team is like moderately enjoying kind of the efficiency gains
Mm,
from things like, AI storyboarding tools or, Gen AI for like a proof of concept image for some wacky idea
mm.
you have. Using ChatGPT for some extra like research on certain topics. So I would say like, we're still having fun with new tools and experimenting. But we haven't come out externally to consumers with anything that I think would
But going full
make
scale
would make
with
headlines.
AI videos like Coca-Cola did with their Christmas video that didn't end very well, I think.
Yeah,
Vinted is
everyone
not
was sharing that
considering.
around. I don't think you'll see anything like that from us in the
Yeah.
near future.
Yeah, I mean, if you are about, very authentic, user-focused platform, it kind of makes sense that it's also very kind of authentic and human, the content that you put out.
Yeah,
Not,
but we
not
like to experiment, so never say
Yeah.
never.
Yeah, of course, of course. There might be, some opportunities where it really kind of helps to do something in a very speedy manner when you have to react to events or like actually the one of the brand that responded to Coke ad perfectly well did with also AI, but kind of laughing about it. Yeah, so we I think touched upon the festivals, and you said, of course, you kind of you have the creative ambition, but you also are very pragmatic about just being entertaining for the sake of entertainment. But do you actually kind of how important are the industry awards to you, and have you tried to participate in any of the world's kind of creativity festivals so far?
Yeah, we've we chucked our hat in the ring with too many last year, and we might do so again in here and there. But yeah, I think I don't see it really as like the focus or the
Yeah.
objective. I think what really gets people excited is seeing like how actual people out there respond, to the work.
Mm,
That's far more rewarding. Um, but we're open to it, not the focus, but I think it's really,
mm,
it's so brilliant to watch, the work that comes out of certain festivals. And I was a judge for the Caples, which is a smaller creative festival last year, and it's just, really it's inspiring, right,
yeah,
to
yeah.
have these awards and festivals that celebrate creativity and aggregate great work.
Definitely more inspiring than watching, a commercial break on your
Exactly.
regular TV.
Yeah, but let's be
Unfortunately.
honest, the in-house creative teams are not typically, seen as the ad industry darlings. So that's also
I mean, I think there's a healthy dialogue about this
yeah,
in-house and outsource agency kind of, coexistence, and also often, finding the synergies among each other. Yeah, because I think the festivals and industry events, it's often about, attracting talent, attracting the
yeah,
most ambitious creative people who see that brand, stands for creativity and really fights for it and kind of shows
totally.
good examples. Otherwise, I think business-wise, I'm not sure it adds, close to nothing. Yeah, so I mean, if Vinted has great already great kind of magnetism towards the brand, I think you don't need to focus on it too much as well. Any challenges, any I don't know struggles that you want to share, or people always love fuck up stories. So I mean,
That's
but
very
yeah,
true.
anything that again we heard some of the success stories and the kind of very positive growth. Any kind of setbacks or challenges that you can share?
Yeah, I think I mean, there's like always small challenges and things that come up. I think running having so many projects in different markets at different times. I mean, we were very excited about finally being at Vienna Fashion Week over the summer, and we had all of
Mm,
these really exciting interviews planned and, street style, and we were going to do some things we hadn't done before, only to have, I think, like one of the strongest tropical storms kind of come through for
oh
three
shit.
days and kind of blow up those plans. And at the same time we had wrapped a lot of public transport, and it had
Mm,
like somehow gotten into a little collision with some cars, and it's just like, those moments of chaos where you're like, oh wow, okay, how are we going to put one foot in front of the other and fix things. So I think
mm,
but as I said before, I really feel that from having that startup background, you've got the stomach for it. You don't
yeah.
freak out and you say, all right.
Embrace the
Exactly.
crisis and realities.
Exactly. Yeah, and then I think, general struggles overall, I mean, time. It's like it can be super all-consuming to work towards a really big mission and,
Mm,
making time for other things to fill my creative cup, stay inspired. Living here in Berlin, there's so many interesting kind of creative things happening, and I wish I had time for more. Yeah,
so FOMO is there.
a little bit sometimes.
But you have a relatively small team, so it feels like you can still move, relatively quickly, towards the result if you have clear brief, clear idea what you want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're about 30 in
Yeah.
the studio.
And who is the client? Who is the boss? I mean, like if you would be, external agency, you would, bring your concept to the client. Do you have
Yeah.
anyone, or you're your own boss in a way?
Yeah, I mean the pitch has to get through me first, and once it does, then it's, with our head of brand and, our stakeholders and brand
Mm,
strategy. But, we try not to set up this like, client agency sort of vibe, because I think it kills the teamwork side. I think a little
mm,
pressure to impress in a pitch is always good, but at the
yeah.
end of the day, we always have to remind ourselves like we're driving towards the same objective. Like let's see how
Well,
we can all add to it.
like of course we reach the same level of partnerships with our clients, that we are in the same boat, we are rowing the
Yeah.
same direction, and but still you have the
Yeah.
client is always having the last say, and you
Yeah.
can't fully reach this one team that probably Vinted can, because again it's still you're one company, one business unit, and yeah, the same culture.
Yeah, and you've got, a longer horizon, right? When
Mm,
you're in the in-house team and you're the brand, like, maybe the exact thing you wanted to execute like didn't work out, in this specific project, but like you've got the ability to say, okay, like that's something we want to do 3 months from, 3 months from now, or
mm,
you can bring people back to it. So I think like the ability to kind of strive towards like a story you want to tell or something you'd like to create
mm,
is really, really like fertile ground within the in-house group. And yeah, to be honest, I love this term that the CD at DoorDash coined. It's called like through the house, and that's really how we're thinking now. Is of course we have a super strong internal team, but we do tap, really external folks when we need help with something specific or a dose of fresh thinking. We obviously have great production partners as
mm.
well, but I like this idea of not like in-house or outsourced, but like through the house, because
What
work
was the
does move
term you
through
said?
through the house.
Through the house. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's like the work moves through the house, and then we've
Mm,
got the steer, and the creative and the strategic steer on it. But I think it gives us more freedom to
mm.
work more fluidly.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it sounds like there's more oxygen, coming in and going out, and kind of more
Yeah,
of exchange of ideas and backgrounds.
exactly. In Germany,
Uh,
they like to open the windows and they say "Luft the house." That's like getting the
yeah,
air through.
totally. Yeah. So yeah, and like what interesting to hear from you, like you're from Florida, right?
Yes.
From States, and now you work in a company that is born in Lithuania. Like how much you actually knew about Lithuania and Baltics, before joining Vinted, and why do you think Lithuanians made it? Like what's and you probably know the founders and owners, like is there something in Lithuania or Baltic kind of mentality that you think was part of the success?
Yeah, I mean, I think the work ethic is really like admirable. People work really hard and are super dedicated, and super passionate. So I think, I
So you would say
definitely think,
it's kind of small country kind of willingness to show to the world that we can do something, and maybe people in Florida are slightly more chill and
let's not talk about people in
don't, don't
Florida.
don't have to prove anything to the world anymore. And
We would need a whole separate podcast to talk about the people of Florida. But no, I think the Lithuanian like mentality of like just working hard and being
mm,
resourceful as well. I mean, I from talking to colleagues and spending more time there, like I think the resourcefulness comes through everything from, like cooking and the relationship with nature and like
mm.
kind of lifestyle wise. So it's cool to see that translated to a business environment as well.
Yeah, and and the brand of Lithuania and Baltics, like how you see like where we are in terms of global map.
Yeah. I think I mean everything is kind of catching up, and I think there's some like really great storytelling coming out of all different parts of
Mm.
Europe now. So I wouldn't necessarily say, you know one specific story is
Yeah.
dominating there. I think the global playing field for creativity is much more level than it used to be.
Mm. But when Vinted kind of and I think it's right way to do that. You are not kind of pushing Lithuania too much when you communicate with people in different countries, but kind of and it's more left, I think, to corporate communication, or to like the for people who really want to know, they can easily find the story, and it's on the
Yeah,
right on the website. And I think it's still this kind of very amazing story about what was her name, about
Hilda.
Milda
Yeah,
moving to other flat, and then Eustace offering the help with the website. So I think very kind of, you really feel how, this, idea started, not from the business plan, but from the kind of very simple need to, move to other.
Pragmatic, some would say.
Very pragmatic. That
Yeah.
well, yeah, that makes sense that you are, still,
16 years later, still coming from that.
yeah, totally. So we have a couple of questions that we like to ask most of our guests in the podcast, and we didn't want, to exclude you in any way. So one of the question is like, which are the other brands outside besides Vinted? We know that Vinted is number one probably, but which are other brands you admire and why?
Oh, love this question. I let me do a little bit of cherry picking. I think there are like different attributes in different places where like so many brands shine. So I would say like across fashion, I really loved like luxury fashion specifically. I've loved how like Jacques Mus has leaned into such like a playful creative spirit. I think we all like were delighted to see, those giant CGI bags kind of
Yeah.
rolling down the street. A classic, just like the ruthless consistency to this like human potential narrative that comes from Nike. It
Mm.
just never fails. I think around the Olympics, was another dose where you're just reminded of like, oh man, so consistently on brand. I've really enjoyed seeing what Rhode Cosmetics has been doing in like the
Mm.
influencer space. So like influencer marketing, I think that's been fun and like very aesthetic and kind of flawless. And then I don't know, for mass market creativity like Burger King and IKEA, I mean, they just like there's so much good stuff that comes out of
Mm.
both of those brands. So
Yeah, one is
my
master, like
little tasting
IKEA. I think
menu.
IKEA's master is on reacting on kind of things and events and
Yeah,
responding with a very very humorous approach. And then Burger King is again masters of challenging the competitor
yeah.
in a, again a very kind of humorous way. So both are also, yeah, great examples. Yeah, quite a nice selection, and we not only ask to hear your thoughts, which are always interesting, but also we are adding them to our list of the potential guests to the podcast as well.
Nice.
So the next one, how important is humor? I mean, this has been like the main kind of major theme of this year's forum, but also podcast. It's like, would you agree that that kind of brands have maybe become less entertaining during last kind of 5-ish years? Or so yeah, what's your take on humor and how important it is in marketing?
Yeah. I mean, if I judge it just by how much I laugh at the Super Bowl showdown every year, then I would say it's getting a bit less funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it depending on where you look, there's some players I think doubling down on humor where I think it doesn't necessarily make sense. I don't need my bank or my insurance company to be funny. Like that doesn't
Mm,
not super necessary. But then you have surprising places where I don't know, Oatly, for instance, where the humor actually really is unexpected, probably
mm,
not so necessary, but does a lot of surprise and delight for the brand. So I think it really kind of depends on where you look. And I think, for us, like having a playful spirit is super important.
mm.
Not taking things too seriously, but yeah, humor works wonders in a lot of spaces.
Great. Yeah, agree to that. Where do you find your kind of inspiration, and where do you load your batteries, for next, periods of creative thinking? Can you
Yeah, I think
suggest any kind of books or podcasts?
books or podcasts. I mean, like some of the like books that I've loved that I've read is The War of Art is a great one, and so is Ways of Seeing. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
creative person, those are two that I really love. I think to stay inspired, like just continuing to try to look at things with fresh eyes. If you walk the same way to work every day, like can you notice something different every time you walk by like the same things? I think sometimes it's having more of a mindset as you explore that you're exploring the world, because it's the tendency to just kind of, trudge through and do the same things is definitely
Mm.
there. And then I mentioned, super lucky in Berlin. There's tons of art, music, fashion, funky stuff going on. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
about
Berlin.
prioritizing that stuff. And
Mm.
I always tell my team, it's like for creative people knowing, what's like art, like art serving itself, and what's like art serving commerce. And, not always in advertising are you going to, fulfill your deepest creative needs by, the briefs you're going to get. Like if you've got to get out there and
Mm.
make things.
No, yeah, Berlin is probably one of the best spots in Europe to kind of be like to satisfy the curiosity and the hunger for arts and culture.
This
So
was a good lesson to myself. I'm working on a poetry manuscript and I haven't been making that much progress recently. So now that I just said this,
mm,
this is my cue to get serious this winter and make some progress.
yeah, I mean that's the end of year or the New Year is always a time to for resolutions. So
Yeah.
let's
What's yours
announce it
gonna be then?
publicly.
I'm
Publicly,
okay. Well, if I'm going to commit, what are you going to commit to?
myself.
Yes.
I haven't done this exercise yet about resolutions.
Walking a
Uh,
different way to work. How about that?
Let me think. Yeah, I'm the driver type of a
Okay.
bit far from my work, but no, I'm doing a lot of these also these different museums and kind of places that or even the bands that have never heard of. Just wanna, hear them or go to their concerts and then see, is it something for me or it's just a nice try. And so I kind of really believe in this experimenting besides your kind of favorites already that I have. So I mean, this year it was the year of podcasts. I listened, I think, more than ever, and I love that. So I mean, definitely, I want to keep on actually the idea that whenever you have more technical things to do, you can add this learning and great content flowing into your head.
Totally.
and
Totally.
and reaching those. So I would, yeah, I still have to think about kind of more maybe ambitious goal for next year, but
You've got time. You've got time.
yeah, but we are expecting your poetry piece of poetry coming out next year, right?
Okay. Yes.
That's fantastic. And the last one, like probably it's also your moonshot goal, or probably there's something else. But yeah, the question is, what is your kind of moonshot goal, or how would your ultimate success look like? Is it professionally? Is it personally?
Oh, that's a heavy hitter to round it out. I think I think it's really about like how I can use creative skills, storytelling, to do some good in the world. And that again, I like people are probably like, oh, so so cheesy, but it really is like, we've got a finite time, on the planet. If you have a skill, if you have, something you can offer,
Mm,
how can you actually, use it to, to do something halfway decent. And so, if I can have a career that, continually is driving in that direction, to me, that's a very successful, life well lived. And then, all the on the leadership side with the teams that I have. And, it's super meaningful when someone reaches out to you that you mentored or you led, and they say like, oh, this was really meaningful to me, or I made this choice. So I don't know, maybe it's not in the big grand things, but really in kind of the like smaller influential like role you can have in people's lives. So
mm.
that's my
No, but
answer.
combining with Vinted global scale, I think, these small, things, initiatives, or influence that you have can actually become, pretty big ones. So
Totally.
I love to hear that, and I think world needs, less Trumps and more Emmas, and more,
Amen.
Vinted thinking businesses that really kind of is solving an issue, but also doing in a very sustainable way, and also attracting talented people to take good care about the brand and marketing as well. So I enjoyed this conversation a lot, and I really hope to meet you maybe sooner than that, but at latest the next year in Vilnius when we have our next Baltic Brand Forum in Kablis, September 26th. So people, please save the date in your calendars. Let's see us there. But meanwhile, enjoy fantastic Christmas holidays and a great year ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to chat again. And yeah, we'll definitely talk and see each other soon.